St Joseph of Cupertino, the Franciscan priest who lived in the late 1600s and early 1700s in southern Italy, in the Kingdom of Naples, known as the Flying Saint. The Flying Saint. Well, flying, didn't really fly, but levitated and rose above the earth many, many times, over 500 times, they say, and 70 times that are documented with crowds of people and seeing what he did. Tell that to the modern scholars who don't believe in miracles, and they discount it and say, oh, that's ridiculous. But these things were witnessed by people. Would happen while he would pray Mass. He would raise above the earth inches or feet. But it would happen when he would just think of holy things, especially heaven, which he really strongly longed for. He would see images of Our Lady, or think about the Passion, or somebody would talk about the Passion, and he would go into ecstasy and then rise up. And our Lord obviously wanted to have that physical, clear phenomenon to make us think of heavenly things, that we should lift up our mind and heart to the things of heaven and spiritual things of God. And St. Joseph was caught up in God. He wasn't just flying around or rising up in the air. He was caught up in thinking of God and praying and loving God. He was full of love for Jesus and love for God and Our Lady. And this began when he was 7 years old. He had his first ecstasy, and happened several times at school, and kids would call him the open mouth, and then ridicule him, of course, pick on him. And he studied, he was trying to learn the trade of shoemaker, but when he was 17, he wanted to enter religious life, and so he applied to the conventual friars, and they rejected him because of his he was awkward and clumsy and not too smart. Couldn't learn very, very easily. When he would read, it was hard for him to learn what he was reading, and so his simplicity and kind of awkwardness he was not accepted at first, and then shortly after he applied to the Capuchin Franciscans, and they accepted him and had him do menial tasks, but he couldn't really handle those either because he'd be caught up, he'd be distracted too by ecstasies, and they let him go. He came back home, and his mother and uncles who took care of him were kind of ridiculing him and putting him down. And they were devout Catholics, though. His mother was very strict with him, and he said, I've already had my novitiate when I was living with my mother, because she was so kind of strict with him. But she brought him up in the faith, and she was devout, and so he learned his faith from his mom, and eventually he kept persevering, and he applied again to the conventuals, and they finally felt sorry for him because he was so earnest in wanting to enter religious life, and had him take care of the donkey and the animals. But he was wise too. Our Lord infused knowledge and wisdom into his mind and heart because of his humility, his obedience to his superiors. He would do whatever he was told, and they really admired him in his holiness, and yet throughout this all, he's continually having these ecstasies, and everybody's seeing his holiness, and they eventually let him study for the priesthood, and by some miracle he was allowed to pass. He passed some exams before the bishop, and the bishop just gave him permission, thinking that he had studied as much as the others, even though he didn't know as much as the other seminarians. But he was ordained priest, and the rest is kind of history, as he continued to have his ecstasies while he was a priest, and as a result, his superiors had to have him celebrate Mass in off times and not publicly, and he had to keep being switched to different friaries because he was becoming so famous, and so much of it really of a distraction to the other friars at prayer and Mass, and just doing anything, he'd be caught up in ecstasy. And some of the friaries he went to the conventual Capuchin friars. He was sent there by I think it was the bishops of the Holy See, which was a different Franciscan community, and even they couldn't handle him because he was such a distraction. But eventually he was sent to a friary in Osimo, conventual friars there, and spent the rest of his life there and lived till his 60s. But so we definitely take away and learn from him of the importance of lifting up our hearts and minds to holy things, to spiritual things throughout the day, always trying to be caught up in prayer in all that we do in our work, and prayers and concentrations and devotion, and giving our hearts totally to our Lord, being caught up, so to speak, absorbed in God, because that is the air that we're supposed to breathe, being absorbed in our Lord, in thoughts of our Lord, and in love for our Lord, and holy things, and setting that example to our neighbor, that we are totally dedicated to God, consecrated to Him in our baptism, and faithful and persevering till the end.
Fructum ventris tuum